Hey everybody, welcome. Today's video we're going to be taking a look at how to create custom title blocks using Revit. Now we're going to take a look at how to do this in two different ways. The first way we're going to look at is just how you would modify an existing title block, be it one of the default title blocks that ships with Revit, or a title block that you've created, maybe it's a different size or for a different project or a different company, and you're just updating it or modifying it, but it's a title block that already exists. So that's the first way we're going to look at it. The second way is we're going to create a brand new title block from scratch. So all we're really starting with is a blank page, and then we're going to draw everything in individually from scratch. So those are the two ways that we're going to look at creating our title blocks. We're going to start off with the pre-existing title block, and we're just going to modify it a little bit. Now I'm not going to do every last little bit to create the full title block. That would just, a lot of it's redundant. It's the same steps over and over and over again. But I'll show you sort of the basics on how to sort of create these in both different methods. So the first way, like I said, we're going to take an existing title block. So I've got a default project open here. It's just the default template, metric architectural template. So I'm just going to go to the sheets in my project browser. So my project browser down here, I just go to my sheets. I'm going to right click and I'm going to add a new sheet. I'm going to grab the A1 metric. It's again the default one that's preloaded in the template. Open it up. And when I select it right now, you'll see it selects the whole title block. And I can either choose to click on the Edit Family button right now, which will take me to the Family Editor, or I could simply double click on the title block, and again it takes me to the Family Editor. And you can see now as I select any of these individual components, only the selected element is highlighted, the rest of the title block is not. So you can see the default title block here. It's got some Autodesk branding and the website and some consultant information. So we're going to look at ways to sort of clean this up and sort of make it customized, make it our own. And again, the key things for title blocks is this information, specifically on working title blocks, this information needs to always be in the bottom right-hand corner of the sheet. That way, when your projects are folded up or rolled up, this information should always be visible. So if anybody's searching through a set of files or looking through roles or things like that of the drawings, they can quickly see project numbers, project names, all the key information of the project, so they don't really have to search for the information. It's all right there ready to go. So as you're creating custom title blocks, just make sure that this information is always in the bottom right hand corner. Just makes it a lot easier for searching things later on for organization. So how to edit this, and again, this is the default one, so we're not really adding a whole lot of new stuff. We're just sort of modifying what's already here. So I'm just going to highlight anything that I might not actually want in my own title block. Maybe I can take these lines and just stretch them up a little bit, make this a little bit larger of a window. I could put some general notes in here if I wanted. A little space up in the top, maybe I put my north arrows there. Project North, Construction North, True North, those types of elements. Now, in another video, we're going to be looking at creating custom families, and we'll actually learn how to add something like a north arrow to a family that you can actually turn on or off. It would just be a property in your title block, and you could just check it on or check it off, make it visible or not visible. So that way you could have your north arrows showing up in your plan views and not showing up in your elevation views, because elevation views obviously don't point to north. There's no north arrows on them, or at least there shouldn't be. So just, that will come later on. Not a huge issue right now, but just keep in mind that that is something that you might want to consider. We're just going to skip over the revision table right now. Basically, this would allow you to add revisions to your drawing set later on. It's pretty self-explanatory once we start doing revisions in a project, and because it's preloaded here, now you can take it and you can actually change the size of it, and you can move it up or down if you need to, so you can adjust the position of it and the size of it as needed. Just going to undo those, leave it where it was. When we do our title block from scratch, we'll look at how you actually create this revision schedule. And then when we do revisions later on, we'll actually look at how this revision schedule actually gets populated with key information. This is going to bring us to sort of the beef of our title block down here, which is our, project information. This is the key information about the project. So there's two elements down here. We have the text for project number, and you'll see in the properties here it is just text. In this case it's 3mm text. And then we actually have the value, in this case 2000.01, and this is considered a label. So we have text, and we have, don't want to edit that, and we have labels. The two different annotative elements in this title block. This date here is a label. The date here, label. Drawn by, label. All of these labels are fields that can be automatically populated by the project. Sometimes you'll have to fill information in, but once it's filled in, you can usually select it from a drop-down box, or it's obviously just reading it like the date. It will read it just from the file itself. The file path, things like that. There's no file path in this one, but some things, project name, client name, that's just coming from the project information. Sheet name, that's coming from your sheets. When you add the sheet to the page, you specify the sheet number, you specify the sheet name. It's pulling all of this information directly from the project file when the time comes. So those are the two annotative elements. So as we're creating our title block and customizing this, like I already showed you, you can delete things that you don't need, you can modify, move things around that you want to change. I can select these lines. I'm just going to hold the control key so I can select all four of these outer borders. Right now they're medium lines. I'm going to make them wide lines. Make them a little more stand out, or make them stand out a little bit more. Might even grab this one here, make it also a wide line. Just a little more pop on the title block. You can tweak the title block. You can change things up a little bit. Just go to the Create tab and go to the Line tool. And I'll just, maybe chop that corner off. Give it, again, a wide line. And you can, just add a little flair, add, uniqueness, customize, make it uniquely your own title block. I could go to the Insert tab, and I could import an image. Now, I don't have any preloaded corporate logos or anything right now, but you can see that there's BMP files, JPEGs, PNG, or TIFF files. So if you have a corporate logo already set up for these, then by all means, you can use these default, or you can use any of these image types as a corporate logo or something like that you need to bring in. If you need an image to show up, you can always just insert that using the Insert tab and bringing in an image. Aside from just doing some of the line work, if we go to the Create tab again, you can see there's masking regions and filled regions. So if you needed some solid fill or some hatch patterns, or if you need to mask over an area, those are available for you as well. And you'll see also on the Create tab we have label and text. So we already have our labels and text here. Now you can add more, or you can delete some if you don't need them. We're going to look at that in a minute when we look at the completely new from scratch title block. But for now, we're just going to take a look at these existing ones. And right now my label is 8mm. If we go to edit type, you'll see it's 8mm, it's black, it has a transparent background, 8mm Arial text, so it just gives you the information. You can duplicate it, you can rename it, you can modify it, up to you what you might want to do. Like I said, again, we're going to be looking at doing this all in a second when we look at the title block from scratch. The text works the exact same as the labels. You can go to edit type and you can see, again, opaque background instead of transparent this time, but it's still Arial, 3mm high. Same thing. It's still just editing the text styles. Some of the other key information here is wrap between parameters only. Sometimes you might want this turned on. And the key thing here is I'm I'm going to leave it turned off for a second, and I'm going to give my sheet a name. So I'm just going to go back to my project here, and I'm just going to name my sheet, and I'm going to name it first floor elevation, and you'll see how it wraps down into 2 lines. Whereas if I were to come into the title block here, and if I grab this label and I check that and load this into the project, you'll see that it doesn't wrap the text anymore, and you'll see it actually sticks off the edges. So when you are creating your title block, if you want to make sure that your text isn't going to exceed horizontally out past your borders or boundaries, you will want to make sure that this wrap between parameters only is unchecked. When it's unchecked and you load it back into the project, the text will actually wrap within itself. Again, you have to make sure you're giving yourself enough vertical space as well for multiple lines of text if you're planning on that. It's just a small thing, keep in mind as you're working through your title block. So those are the basics. You can add lines, you can modify the line types. Go back into the family here. You can, move any of these text elements around. You can move the title revision schedule around. So lots of things that you can do. The information's all here. It's just a matter of organizing it the way you want it to be. Now, the second way of creating a title block is to create one completely from scratch. Now, the benefit to that is if you're going to be doing a lot of work or making something completely different, then it might be easier just to start from scratch instead of trying to shuffle all of these different elements around. If it's similar to what you've already got in an existing title block, then there's no need to start from scratch. It's going to be up to you how you want to do it. So I'm just going to close these guys down for a second. I'm not saving anything at this point. And this time we're going to go to a new family. So under the families heading, we're just going to go new. And it brings me to my family template, so I'm going to go with English. I'm not doing Imperial, I'm just doing English, which will give me metric drawings. I'm going to go to my title blocks, and you'll see there's A0 through A4 metric default sizes, and you'll see in the sample image there's nothing in it, it's just the outside border. Or you can go to new size, and you can actually define the size of your title block if it's a unique page size. Completely up to you. I'm just going to go with the same size as we had before, the A1 metric. When I open it up, all that I'm given is that outside border. Now, I didn't mention this on the other one, but this outside border represents the actual sheet size. If I were to click on it, you'll see 594 by 841. Those are the dimensions of the A1 sheet. That is not a printable area or anything like that. That is the actual page borders. Important to keep that in mind. These lines should not be printing if your printer and everything is set up to print it at 100% size. These lines should not show up. They should be literally right on the edge of the page. The flip side to this is if you're printing it on a larger sheet of paper, maybe you're printing it on like an A0 roll or something like that, then these borders will actually show up, and they work really well to show you where you might want to cut your page to get the A1 sheet size. So just a small thing about what that outside border is. From here, we can actually just start drawing our title block, and it's almost just like AutoCAD at this point. Just go to the Create, go to the Line tool, choose the thickness that you want, and you can add new line types if you wanted to. You can actually go to the Manage tab, and under your additional settings, you can add new line weights and styles. Completely up to you if you need to. But the default comes with, there we go, modify place lines. We've got wide lines, medium lines, thin lines. That's all we really need. We don't need like 15 different line types for a title block. So I'm just going to go to my wide lines. I'm going to create a rectangle. And the way I usually do this is I'll just draw it in roughly to begin with. And then I will grab the edges and adjust them to be the size that I want. So I'll go with 30 on the left side for my binding edge, and I will go with 20 on all the other sides. Now make sure that these borders, where the edge of your printed portion is going to be, you're going to want to make sure that that's within the printable area of your page, depending on your printer. Some printers have larger buffers for the rollers to sort of grab the paper and print it. So you do need to make sure that these lines are actually within the printable area of your page. From there, I'm just going to, again, create another line. Let's go, yeah, 80 is pretty good for that. And I might want to draw a couple of horizontals across. I might not want these all to be wide lines. Maybe I'll make these ones medium, a little bit thinner. And again, I'm not going to draw out the whole thing. You get the idea. Just drawing lines. The same way you would draw any other lines. You can create arcs. So if I wanted to, I could, let's just draw a line down here, and I can do an arc, something like that. So I could sort of clean up that corner or tweak out that corner a little bit, make it a little more unique. Nice rounded corners. So lots of things that you can do. It's just drawing at this point. So once we've got sort of the layout and the lines in place that we want, we need to start adding in our text and our labels, our two annotative elements. So I'm going to go to the Create tab, and we have our text and our labels right here. I go to the text tool. There's two default sizes, 8 and 12 millimeters. Both are a little big. So I'm just going to grab the 8 millimeter for now. I'm going to go to my edit type, and I'm just going to duplicate it. You can overwrite it if you want. I'm going to call it Technic Light 3 millimeters. So I'm going to change up the font a little bit. So I just come down into the properties. Technic Light 3 millimeters. The border, the tab size is okay. Opaque is fine. I go okay. And I'm just going to type in sheet number and maybe a colon at the end. And again, much like any other annotation, you can just pick it and move it to where you want it to go. That's just text. Nothing groundbreaking about that. You can create as many different sizes and types as you want. Obviously, you're going to want to be consistent with your font styles, and you're going to want to sort of follow whatever your corporate standard is. Once you've got your text in and you sort of have your headings, then we come back to the Create tab and we go to our labels. Label, and we just click where we want the label to go. We can also edit the type here, but we can do that before or after. So I'm just going to click where I want the label to go. And this is sort of the list of sort of preset labels. There's sheet names, numbers, project status, organizations, drawn by, date and timestamps, file paths, authors, lots of information here. And again, this is all being pulled from the project information, either the properties panel or project information or whatever else. So in this case, I'm just going to go to sheet number, bring that over. Okay, and there it is. Oops. And again, I just escape so I can grab it and move it where I want it to go. Now, there are different fonts, so I'm going to want to take this and I'm going to want to edit this now as well. So I'm going to leave it 8 millimeters, but I'm going to rename it to the Technic Light and change the font. Oops. Maybe if I could type. There we go. Technic Light. Apply and OK. And there's our sheet number. Now again, how much space you're giving for that, again, completely up to you as you're drawing your own title blocks. So that's how we add our text and how we add our labels. Other labels that you might want to consider putting in, just go create label. I'm just going to click here randomly so you can see some of the other ones that we've got. Typically, you'll want an author, maybe checked by, client name, date timestamps, designed by or drawn by, file path sometimes, which will show you exactly where on the computer this project was saved when it was printed. It might have been moved since then, but this comes in handy if somebody has a printed document and they need to find out where on the corporate server that the files are. They can actually go and find it pretty easily if they know exactly where it's located. Again, most companies have a fairly organized, file storage system anyway, so if you have your project number, you probably should be able to find the file, but this way it's just really kind of idiot proof if you put the file path in. Project address, issue date, names, all this project information, the scale, these are all the types of things that you're going to want to bring into your title block. Standard fields that you would normally see in everyday title block. Sorry, I'm just going to escape out and zoom out a little bit. So we've drawn our lines, we've added text, we've added labels. Again, we're going to see north arrows later on as we get into creating more advanced families, where you'll actually be able to drop in a north arrow and turn it on or off, or make it visible or hidden, depending on the type of view that you've got. But for now, if you want to just bring in a north arrow and draw it in, you can actually just drop that in there and modify it on your title block for each individual project. The last thing we're going to look at is bringing in a revision schedule. Later on, we'll look at how to actually use the revision schedule, but you might want to still just have it on your title block in case, you're doing, you're tracking your document sets of drawings, things like that. Maybe you're 50% design drawing or 75% construction drawing, or maybe you've made some revisions based on building department feedback. So to create a revision schedule, it's really actually easy. You go to the View tab and there's a tool for revision schedule. That's all it is. And it's pretty much the same as any other schedule. So I'm just going to get rid of the revision sequence. I don't want that in my schedule right now, but again, you could have that if you wanted. So I'm just going to leave it revision number, description, and date. And I'm actually going to move the date up. So number, date, and then description. Okay, here's my revision schedule. You might want to change some of these headings. Revision number, revision date, and revision description. Perfect. And you'll see in my views under schedule, there it is. So if I come back to the main page, I can then take my revision schedule, drag it, and drop it into my title block. And I can scale these things down as I need to make them fit. Maybe do that a little bit bigger, so you can have your revision schedule fitting on your sheet. Now, the one thing with this is it doesn't show all the nice grid lines. It's just this blank space underneath it. So how can we make a revision schedule look bigger without actually having any revisions yet? Kind of straightforward. We select a revision schedule, or we select it in our project browser here, and it brings up our standard fields, or our standard editing tools for any schedule. If we go to the Appearance tab, you'll see there's an option here for height. Right now it's variable, which means as the new lines come in, it populates the field. If we instead change that to user defined, and we hit OK, you'll see we now have the option of making this as long as we want for our revision schedule. So you can now put a revision schedule into your title block with corporate logos and all the other fields that you need, and you'll have a great looking title block when you're done. So hope that works for you guys. I hope you guys are going to be able to get in there and start playing around and creating some really nice looking title blocks. And that's really all I've got for the video for today. So I hope you found it useful. Hope you guys are creating some pretty cool stuff. And I look forward to talking to you guys again in my next video. Have a good one.